Return to the land of your soul. Lie, 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 return to the home of your soul.
My father embodied so many aspects of a life lived in the brighter future, and of those aspects, dedicating his life to the spirit of service was among the most courageous. My father hated Christmas. He saw the corruptions of this world with eyes untrained by societal distractions, and he longed so deeply for a brighter future for his children and grandchildren to be born. This is a future where a higher expression of humanity permeated communities across the globe, where neighbors were kind to one another, where animal and insect populations thrived in harmony with humanity, where the local ecosystems were cherished as the true treasure that they are. In his vision, humanity harnessed their creative energies into a constant channel of how can we do better. We unearthed the alchemical powers of nature, and nothing ever went to waste. What was once garbage became fuel for new life to grow, became a force of fertilization for the sprouts of human integrity, became an opportunity to collectively deepen our devotion to caring for the planet we all love and share. His vision was for all to live in alignment with nature rather than against it. Each of us carries an aspect of his life story through the various ways we all related to him. We all have the great honor and opportunity to weave the brighter future and opportunity to weave the beauty he offered this world into our daily lives. This might look like calling your loved ones regularly to check in. This may look like putting on a rain jacket while everyone else is running inside. This may look like planting native plants in your gardens. This may look like adopting a lifestyle that centers the well-being of the planet. This may look like spending less money on Christmas and giving gifts in paper grocery bags rather than using wrapping paper. This may look like doing everything in your power to bring laughter to the children who cross your path. This may look like climbing, literally climbing, anything that appears climbable, which is to say, find a way for the undomesticated, playful child within you to be expressed, no matter your age. Our memories of Jason are all we have left, but I cannot fathom a more profound gift to leave behind than the example he gave of a life lived in symbiosis with the planet and in service to his community. For is it not our sacred duty as members of that community to embody the best aspects of the way he lived his life within our own? If you wish to honor him, integrate his teachings into your daily life. The future Jason longed for is not going to be handed to us. All of us must make the choice every day to embody that vision right now. Be kind to yourself, to one another, and to the planet. If you envision integrated, healthy communities of people who care for one another, be that community member now. If you envision humanity living in symbiosis with the local ecosystems, embody that aspect of humanity right now. He knew that tackling the entire empire of societal corruption is no one's sole responsibility, but weaving a brighter future for the generations to come through radical responsibility and daily action is. And now I would like to invite my Uncle Andy, Jason's brother, to the stage. Thank you.
I think first and foremost, thanks everyone for coming out. It means so much to our family and to Jason and to me. No, Jason is one of a kind. I've never met anyone like him in my life. I doubt I ever will. I met a lot of people. I had the great honor of growing up with him as my older brother, and Jason was the coolest. He introduced me to everything, like so many things that shaped me and made me the person that I am. He somehow was always growing up. Little old Eugene, Jason knew all the cool stuff. I remember Meadowlark Elementary School, waiting in that breezeway for the bus, and suddenly a breakdancing circle. Like what I thought spontaneously erupted. What is Jason? He just got all these kids together, and everyone's clapping, and Jason's in the middle spinning. Thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and he would always include me. And even then, I remember him like pointing at me, like, "Come on!" And I was too embarrassed to do it. I think I had a pretty mean worm back then, but he always brought me along with whatever it was that he was doing. Skateboarding was the next big thing, and I'm an old skateboarder, still do it as best I can, if my ankles allow. But Jason, he was. I remember having a skate day at Monroe Middle School, and he was like a celebrity. He was out there, and everyone's just cheering for him. Watching him fly through the air, he was always doing stuff way ahead of everyone else. And same thing with snowboarding. I remember Mom, Dad has in Scouts growing up, so we were always hiking, always out in the woods, sometimes in the snow. And Jason got a snowboard before anyone knew what a snowboard was, strapped that thing to his 100-pound backpack, and hiked out like for a week in the woods so he could go down a hill here and there and just make it happen before anyone even knew that snowboarding was a thing. He was just endlessly creative. He could turn anything into something magic. I remember working on art projects with him. That we just took on our own in middle school again. Yeah, like getting a projector and putting it's a big screen, tracing it all out. We didn't even discuss it. He just kind of started doing it and pulled me along, and I followed and learned from him. He taught me so much. Such a generous spirit. And not everybody knows probably that Jason did have when he was very young, was in a car crash and did have a brain trauma that caused a lot of problems for him throughout his life. He struggled with it off and on. We talked to different doctors. We tried different medications. It never really got figured out. But he somehow figured it out on his own, I think through his work. Once he discovered horticulture and his love for the work that he was doing, he poured himself into that, and that like turned into his medicine. What he had been fighting with for so long, like he was able to find peace through the work that he did. And he was nonstop. He was one of the most prolific people I've ever met. He would work for 10 days in the 10 hours of hot sun, and then go home and build something else. And it's just nonstop. And he would turn garbage into the coolest things that you had ever seen. He was just endlessly creative. And to see him, all the projects that he did, like there are too many to list. Honestly, there's thankfully some pictures back there and whatnot. But he was just a force, one of a kind, and a real loss that he's no longer with us. Unfortunately, I have probably sat and contemplated life and death more than most people, because we've had a few losses in the family. And it's made me think a lot about faith, and there's a lot of different faiths out there. But we have faith that's not based on anything. That's what faith is. You gotta just believe it, whether you're Christian, whether you're Catholic, whether you're Jew or Hindu, whatever it is, no one really knows, until you get to the other side. That's why we call it faith, right? We blindly trust these things. I have faith that where Jason is now, where his spirit is now, that he's in a good place. And I have faith that I'm going to see him again, and that we're all going to be reunited with him. And I'm going to do my damnedest to honor him and think of him as a source of strength, source of inspiration, to have a heart that big, to be so generous and so giving. That guy would bend over backwards for anyone and everyone. Sometimes sometimes not to his benefit, unfortunately. But yeah, right. He will be sorely missed. He's in our hearts, he's in our minds, and he's with us now. I'm watching down, and he would love what we put together today, and that you all are here to honor him. So thank you all.
I'd like to invite Pete, one of Jason's good friends, to come speak next.
Let's face it, Jason was pretty picky when it came to choosing friends. And looking around, I'm surprised some of you made the cut. I'm Pete, one of Jason's closest friends. He always told me he loved legitimate theater. And now he'd probably want me to do some kind of interpretive dance of his life. Actually, I wouldn't know where to start. I can't dance, and you don't want to see me try. Jason was the brother I never had. We go way back, 30 years. I first met him in high school, where I learned about his sense of humor and how he loved to make people laugh. He had great showmanship. I remember one day at school, where legend has it, Jason was only trying to sneak a kiss from his girlfriend in another classroom. But he inadvertently caught the attention of campus security and a resident uniformed police officer that quickly turned into a game of tag. The security and police officer, it was more like Super Bowl. Them linemen hell-bent on tackling the quarterback. To Jason, it was a parade where he gave him a personal tour around the school, through the hallways, the classroom, the courtyard, and even the lunchroom, where I'm pretty sure he was even running on top of tables while kids are eating. Jason would let him get close, and then he'd turbo out of reach. Half the school followed this parade, cheering and laughing with Jason as he proverbially scored the touchdown, taking him off campus. He was the fastest man I knew. Another time, working together on a roofing job in the South Hills, it was a hot day. A lot hotter than this. So hot where, you got sweat pouring down, you're using your shirt, you're trying to dry, your eyes are burning from the sweat, you're just covered in sweat. And I heard a clattering thud. We're on this roof, and it's the South Hills, and you got, a roof, with a building that's like, 30, 40 foot drop. I hear this thud, and I look around, Jason's gone. I start walking around the edge looking for him, and I hear in a Sylvester Stallone voice, "Adrian!" And there's Jason hanging cliffhanger style on the corner of the gutter. And before I could get to him, he gets his leg, swings it back up, crawls up on the roof, and he does. It ain't no thing, man. He does this like Carlito, Tony Montana, you know how he is. It ain't no thing, man. Anyways, you know how he do. Jason lived life on his terms. He had a playful, fearless confidence, and there wasn't anything he couldn't do. He made the world a better, beautiful place where his energy continues to grow. He was the most incredible friend who indeed would bend over backwards. I consider myself one of the lucky ones to be part of his life. He taught me many things. Seize the day. Love your family and friends with a full heart. And always be 100% in the moment. I swear I've seen a hawk or an eagle every day for the last 9 months. And I'm sure it's a jaybird watching over us. You're my boy, Blue. We love you, Jason. I'll see you at the top in about 50 years.
Thank you, Pete. And now, Grandpa Jerry, would you like to speak?
Oh my goodness, a lot of people here. Holy wait, I'm glad we set up all those chairs. Can you hear me? Yep. Well, I can shout louder.
You might have to go a little closer.
Like that? Is that working?
That is good.
You know, some of you know me as the most favorite husband of Trudy Boggs. And it's the truth. Guy has to work hard to get that honor, I want you to know. So I'm Jerry Boggs. And I just wanted to share some of my memories that I have with Jason, okay? And many of those memories revolve around our family and what we're doing. And as had been mentioned, we typically would go out for walks, and this is just a very appropriate place, I think, for us to meet here for Jason's celebration of life. And as we would get out and be walking, our family, for some strange reason, would split up, and there would be people in the front and people in the back. And Jason, as has been expressed already, would be the one that would worry about what everyone else was doing. So he, along with Renard the Fox, our wonderful dog that we had for so many years, the two of them would run to the front and check on everyone, and then they would run to the back and check on everyone, making sure that everyone was fine and dandy and doing well with one another. And I always appreciated that for him. And I discovered, just listening to some of the things that have been said, that Jason was a concerned person for all of his fellow man. And he would go to no lengths to try to be able to make that work. And I discovered that he was making these stops around to check on people, do little things for them. That was just the kind of guy he was. I've heard several people say that. You're all good. So we loved him for that. Another family activity was to go to the Oregon coast. We always loved to go to the Oregon coast. Went to the Oregon coast with some of you guys in times past too. And we would, of course, with four young boys and two semi-adult people, would hit the beach and collect all sorts of sand and debris, building sand castles and jumping off sand dunes. We just had a wonderful time. And of course, we were covered with sand, and then we would come back home to this little rented place that we had someplace between Yachats and Walport, I think, and we would leave our sand in the house, as you would expect some little boys to do. But Jason, on the other hand, had his little broom out. Oh, I'm sorry, don't go to... Jason would get his little broom out, and I guess it was kind of a big broom for him in those days, and he would sweep all the sand out of the house and would go so far as to even line all the shoes up outside. So Jason was very tidy in those days. Didn't always carry over to his more adult life, but we loved him nonetheless for it. Another memory that I have is doesn't involve the family so much, but rather Jason and a jacket that Michael Jackson wore. Some of you may remember this. That had 22 zippers on this synthetic, I guess it was, jacket that he was just infatuated with. He thought that was the coolest thing in the world going. So his mother and I decided, well, if he wants this, he needs to work for it. So we got him some jobs around the house, and he put it all together, earned the money quickly. He was always a very hard worker, so he came back in a short time ready to buy that jacket and go have a good time with it. 22 zippers. Again, his mother thought there were only 16, but I swear there were 22 zippers on that baby. And he carried that a bit further and found a pair of black pants that he loved that came up to his shins, of course. Found a pair of black loafers, so that he was really in style, along with those white socks. Everyone remembers the white socks. And the cherry on the top was that one white glove that he had. So he was looking pretty dapper. We were very, very proud of our son to be able to do that. By the way, some of these stories Mom and Dad would rather not hear, I want you to know. So another thing that he would do as he moved back to Eugene. It was so hot here yesterday you couldn't do anything, and now look at it. This is great. What a wonderful time. So he moved back to Eugene, and he was very artistic, has been pointed out. And so he would, in fact, get work fairly quickly, and was just very clever in putting things together, and a hard worker, and just did a wonderful time with it. But he would inevitably, because he was in town, stop by our house in the afternoon after he got off of work. And Trudy and I, his mother and I, thought that he was just here to check on the old folks, make sure they hadn't fallen down and couldn't get up. We know one of those things. But as we started thinking about it a little bit more, it just so happened that it happened to be right around dinner time that he would show up. So I'm not so convinced. I'm sure he was looking out for us, but I think he was after some of his mother's home cooking as well. And I guess lastly, as he was here in town, he would, as we took him out for hikes and walks when he was a youngster, he took his mom and dad out for hikes and walks as well. And so we always had a wonderful time going on those walks with Jason and being able to chat with him. And he also organized 2 or 3, I guess, river trips, canoe trips down the river up. We would go down to Harrisburg, and I always remember those very fondly. They were just wonderful trips, and one in particular we'd taken out along a river rock bar, and we were having our lunch, and suddenly above there was this huge osprey that was circling us. I figured he was after my lunch, but as it turns out, as he made those circles and we finished our lunch, all of a sudden he came down, hit the water right in front of us, and came out with this beautiful fish that he was able to have for lunch. So Jason and I were able to have lunch with the osprey and with ourselves as well. A memory that I will always remember. Thank you all for being here and helping us celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Grandpa. To close, I have a eulogy that I wrote for Jason that I'd like to perform. How does one express the story of an entire person within the bounds of a single sheet of paper? How does one articulate the joyful face and adventurous presence, the grass-stained jeans, the calloused hands gently pressing saplings into the soil? How does one summarize the outstretched hands, the helping heart, the veins pulsing for adrenaline, for sky soaring, for deep diving mountain peak wonder? I've yet to meet another man who climbed the highest of heights physics would allow, just to be that much closer to the stars. I remember us both gazing upwards into that opened-mouthed sky many years ago, leaning our backs against his carved rock chairs. Look at the stars, he would say. Don't they remind you of how small and insignificant we all are? Whenever I have a problem that seems to take up my whole world, I look upwards to remember that compared to the stars, my troubles are so insignificant. Insignificance is not intended to invalidate. It is intended to humble, to widen one's perspective, to incorporate the importance of all of life around us. And this was your philosophy, to walk in humility amongst the living, natural world, to carry a sense of equality towards all facets of life, from the dragonflies to the rivers, to the animals and the stones. When others saw flowers, you saw Kincaid's lupine, the primary home and food source of Fender's blue butterfly. And when others saw trees, you saw the Douglas fir, the primary tree housing the endangered northern spotted owl. Your life was a prayer for balance, was a prayer for protection for all indigenous species. You turned down every real estate agent who wanted to buy the forest in your backyard. Money is nothing but paper compared to clean air, you'd say. To care about something so much, that is a true gift. That is a legacy. This is the story of the man who gave his heart to the plants and became a master gardener, who would sound the name of every berry, tree, and flower in passing as if saying hello to an old friend, who shaped nature's elements into creations beyond compare, who knew anything had the possibility of becoming something new again. So he carved sculpture out of stone, turned waste into wonder, mended scrap into display. He crafted rooftops out of flowers just so his favorite dragonflies would come. He saw the natural world through the lens of miracle, of symbiosis. He knew a tree was never just a tree, but a source of shelter to the birds, who are a source of protection for the tree. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we all strived to be a little bit more like that? This is the story of the man who mastered the art of giving himself for somebody else, who taught me the best part about having something is having something to give, who said we learn how much we have once we give ourselves away. This is for the one who woke early to ensure everyone got to work on time, who wrapped his jacket around shivering shoulders, who planted a field of blueberry bushes simply because they produce his granddaughter's favorite fruit. What more could we have asked for? You gave like every star was wishing on you. And for the ones who carry on, still wishing on stars, this is for you too. This is for the spirit of service that guides us, and for the generosity yearning to sing and spread its wings inside us. This is your call to action, that whatever seeds you've been planting, you plant even more. We need each other right now more than we ever have before. Come out of the shadow and remember how to shine for somebody else. If his life taught us anything, it is that we are truly not alone in this. So when the waves of grief crash into your chest, when all hope feels lost in the mind mangle of the tide, stay here with me, okay? You, stay here with me. Say, here we are, standing at the shoreline, aching for it all to get better, but knowing hope shines brighter with each of us at each other's backs. This is the story of a family coming together, weaving a brighter future for the generations to come. So one day, his great-grandchildren can live in symbiosis with the world around them, like the flower to the bee, like the pollen to the wind, like a heavy heart dialing the number on nights when the sky collapses at their feet. Pick up the phone and say alone is the last place you will ever be.